Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander, and I am incredibly excited to get to host another Power to Fly fabulous chat and event. Now, before we get going and get kind of dived into our speaker, get you introduced, all the good stuff, I just want to go over a couple of quick housekeeping items. This will be especially important if today is your first Power to Fly event. And if that's the case, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Apologies for the small frog in my throat, y'all. There's been some illness and stuff going around in my neck of the woods, hopefully not in yours. But I am very excited to be here today and can't wait to host this event. If this is your first Power to Fly event, we're very happy to meet you. If you are one of our frequent flyers, the love is no less real. I love seeing our familiar names and faces and avatars in the chat. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. If we can go to the next slide, please. Now, this is going to give you kind of the lay of the land and let you know how you can best get the best possible experience out of today's event. So the thing to know is that these events are all about you, our audience members, our community members, and they're all about you getting what you came to get out of today's event. So you are really encouraged to participate if you would like. There's a couple different options. We encourage you to turn your cameras on if you'd like. There's no need to be Instagram perfect. We just want to see your smiling, maskless faces safely. Truly, y'all, I think I'm on like day 5 or 6 of the dry shampoo messy bun combo. So no need to stand on ceremony. We really don't care. You can be in a 3-piece suit or your bathrobe. It makes no difference to us. We want to meet you where you are. Now, if you want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, that's completely fine. Y'all, maybe you've got a great avatar set up. Maybe you are, fully face masked. Maybe you just don't feel like it. That's okay. You can always participate in the chat as well. My friend Ria is in there starting to send in, prompts for y'all. And one thing I want to call out here, let us know where you're joining from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So please let us know where you're joining us from. I'm always really eager to see how far our global audience spreads. And please feel free to let us know if you know whose land you're on. Now, the other big thing to know about our events is that we are recording these. So what that means for you is that you get to relax. You get to kick back, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Heather, and not worry about if you missed a resource that someone lists, or a reference they make or a term that you want to look up later. You don't have to take notes. What this means is that in about 4 to 5 business days, y'all will get an email from Power to Fly that'll have a link to where you can rewatch this recording when we post it on powertofly.com. Now, that takes 4 to 5 business days. Let's say you don't want to wait. Let's say that Heather says something so like mind-blowing, paradigm-changing, amazing that you can't wait 4 to 5 days to like review it or send it to a friend or a coworker or a relative. You don't have to. So you can go to our YouTube channel. We'll be sharing links for all of this in the chat thread as we go. But you can go to our YouTube channel. The link or the video is posted there usually by end of day, the day of the live stream. And there is a huge section of our recorded chats. Like we've got a section of our archives stored there as well. So, really great way to look out and check out some other resources from Power to Fly, also for free. I do recommend that you check out on the website though, mostly because the website is where our full archive is. That's everything that happened from like the beginning of Lunch and Learns through now. So that is where the true like just wealth of resources are that we want to get in the hands of as many people as possible. So please feel free to avail yourself of those. Now, the other thing, I'm going to be checking in on the chat here. Just give me a second. Here we go. All right. I'm seeing all these people joining us. India's in New York. We've got Jordan, or no, sorry. I can't get my scroll to work. Sorry, y'all. But we've got Dana joining from Jordan, Wanda in Boston. Thank you all so much. I love, love, love seeing how far our audience spreads. All right. Now, as you're writing in that chat, I just want to highlight for y'all that we hope that you all, as always, lead with kindness and empathy as we're talking to our fellow attendees, networking, all that kind of good stuff. If you have any questions on that, we'll be sharing our code of conduct in the chat, but just make sure that, we're basically doing the same thing that we always do with these events. We're here to learn, have fun, and respect everybody. If you have questions during today's event, we want to hear from you. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over some of the questions that y'all submitted when you registered for this event. If we are going over one of your questions, that's awesome. If there is like context or extra details or something that you want to share with us so that we can better answer your question, awesome. Please feel free to do so. The other thing is you are free to ask questions during the event. Just throw them up in the chat. I'll be there monitoring and taking a look at them. And we will try to get to as many as we can. Now, if you asked a question at registration and you're not sure if we're going to get to it today, sorry, please tell us. Send that question in the chat. You all took time out of your lives to be here with us live while we record today, and we want to reward you for that. So please, if you are here, you have a question, make sure that you ask it. Ask early, ask often. That is the best way to make sure you get the most out of today's event. All right, now, as we go, next slide, please. Heather Hoover is here today on behalf of uShip. Now, uShip is a fabulous partner with PowerToFly. When I first started working here, they were on my client list. So I was the one preparing lists of people that might be good applicants for jobs or might be good attendees at events like this. So I got to know a lot about uShip. You're going to learn a little bit more as we go. But really, if anything that you hear from us today sparks your interest, I really encourage you to take a look at their company page on powertofly.com. Now, Ria is sending, again, the links are in the chat. Ria is doing the most for us here. But go ahead and check out their company page. Now, there's some great stuff on there that's really helpful. But the big thing I want to highlight, there's like 3 things, okay? First thing is the follow button. It's big, it's pink, it's in the middle of that page. You can see it right there. Follow button is going to do some really great things for you, but effectively what it does is it works like your friend who already works at uShip. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to allow PowerToFly to tell the HR team at uShip that you are interested in working with them, even without you filling out an application. So that is a great option. If you hear something that sparks your interest, let's say you're actively job seeking, but there's no role right now that like you really want to apply to, smash that follow button. It's also a really good option if you are, if you're not necessarily actively looking, but you're kind of curious. Adding companies to your follow network on PowerToFly is a great way to give yourself a short list of companies to look at the next time you are actively interested in job hunting. And you want to see what else is out there. So a couple different reasons to use that follow button. The other thing is smashing the follow button allows PowerToFly to take some of the weight off of you in your job search, because we are going to tell you when that company posts new roles. So that way you don't have to keep coming back and rechecking, and at the end, you basically memorize these job boards. And so we want to kind of take some of that weight off of you. So I really recommend you check out the follow now, or like smash that follow button. The other thing is on these company pages, you can learn some great stuff. There's information about company benefits, company culture. There's all kinds of cool stuff in that overview tab. Events is going to show you past recordings for stuff like this, or if they've got events planned that are, open for registration, you can sign up. And then there's also the jobs tab, which is usually the big thing that people want to come and look for. That's all awesome. The other thing I want to highlight here is the company insights tab, as well as our blog. So if you think that you might be going in for an interview with uShip or any of these companies, make sure that you check out their company page and take a look at some of the content in the company insights. There are great things in there that you can pull from to ask questions and really show off your interest about uShip in a job interview in a way that, like, you're not sharing the same LinkedIn article that, everybody's sent around, or Business Insider or whatever. So it's a really good place to try and find something that's going to make you stand out in interviews, because you will be able to comment on something that maybe a lot of the other applicants aren't. All right, next slide, please. All right, now I'm really excited to introduce you to today's speaker. Now, Heather Hoover is joining us. Heather is the CEO of uShip. Now, Heather is responsible for maintaining and accelerating the company's growth, adapting to the shifting needs of its customers, and ensuring the supply and demand business of the uShip marketplace. Now, Heather is an expert in shipping and logistics technology. She's the longest tenured employee at uShip. She started her career in 2005 in public relations with the marketing team. Now, since she joined uShip, she has served in several other key leadership roles. She was Chief Operating Officer, where she also oversaw human resources, recruiting, facilities, customer operations, legal, risk and payments, product and development, and data analytics. Heather, I think your job list honestly rivals mine. And I've had some bizarre jobs over the years, but like, you got your hands in everything. Now, most recently, Heather has been promoted. She's accepted the position of the interim CEO at uShip and was moved to the full-time, this is super serious, on May of 2023. Now, Heather holds a bachelor's degree in public relations from the University of Texas at Austin, and I'm very excited to bring her to the stage today. Heather, is there anything else that you would like our audience members to know about you before we dive into our questions?
I think you really covered a lot. I mean, there's a lot underneath all of that, and I'm excited to unpack some of that as we go through several questions. But I'm so excited to meet everyone, and we have looked at all of the questions that were pre-submitted, so we will hit as many as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ria, if you want to stop sharing your screen, then we will dive into questions here. All right, so let's get us started with the first one here. Can you tell us a little bit more about your career journey? Obviously, from the title of the chat, most people are aware that you went from intern to CEO, but can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yes. So I, first of all, never expected to be with a company as long as I have been. It's a little over 18 years now. So that's a common question I get. Why? How? That's so uncommon in this day and age. So that wasn't the intent. That wasn't what I was striving for when I found uShip. But how I got started there, I come from a very, very small farming town in small town Northeast Texas. So Austin, Texas is a huge world for me, you know, when I was moving to Austin to go to university. But in my really, really small town, there was a very large company there. It was actually the world's second largest poultry company. So they sold eggs, chickens, feed, you dealt with everything. I happened to get an internship there when I was 16 years old. I was brought up with a very strong work ethic. That's part of who I am. And so as soon as you were legally able to get paid to work, that's what was expected of you. So that's what I did. But by working at this very large company, there were over 50,000 employees at that point in time. And in my small town, that's where they were headquartered. But I worked in the information technology department. And I was I was tasked with, at that point in time, this was early 2000s, I was tasked with creating an e-learning platform. Why they decided a 16-year-old could do that, I don't know, but I think it was a situation where everything is on paper and pretty antiquated, and we don't really know anything about this, just go figure it out. Well, I did. And that gave me so much confidence, just being able to explore, to learn, to fail fast, and be able to produce something that was bigger than myself. And in this case, like providing an e-learning platform for a huge organization. So that was really cool.
A good point. Like that's such a good, like a cool point in your life to be like in your career. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of us start and like it's not that you don't have confidence, like none of us do, but you generally don't get those opportunities until much later.
Correct.
And the fail fast thing is not, I mean, I don't know about you, but like for me, I don't know that I'd worked at many companies prior to PowerToFly that was a thing, right?
Yes.
And so being told it's okay to fail and fail fast, that sets you on a really good mindset for your career journey. That's amazing.
Exactly. There was no playbook because it was like, this is how we do it, but we obviously want to evolve. And so that was a very unique opportunity. Again, one that I never expected to have, especially at such a young age, but it really did that mindset, or the ability to do that just really set me up for success longer term. So and I appreciated that opportunity. So then fast forward, I go to University of Texas, finish my internship there. I did work with them on and off for 4 years. And I could have stayed there and worked there forever, I think, but I was like, no, I'm going to break away. And that's when I was finishing up my public relations degree, I happened upon an unpaid internship opportunity with uShip. At this point in time, uShip was a team of 5 people. They had closed Series A, but this was very much a proof of concept. Can we make this work? So I kid you not, walk in the door on the first day, and there's 3 rooms, including a closet, which there was a desk in that said closet. There was a ping pong table, there was a mini fridge. Most people were sitting at a conference room table, and the rest of the folks of the five were sitting on like just doors on sawhorses. So just, yeah, it was very rudimentary. I was like, okay, this is a startup. This is a tech startup. All right, got it. So that was, and I was the only female. I was, it was just very, very different than 50,000 plus company corporate America with very strict dress code. So I was like, all right, well,
you didn't have a strict dress code when your desk was doors on sawhorse?
No,
no, shocking to me.
No.
Shocking.
I mean, she was optional. It is also Austin, but yeah.
Fair. All right, that's fair.
So walked in, and I was like, but the energy was so amazing. And I hope that everyone on the call can experience that energy, that creation moment at some point in time in your career. But I immediately got super excited about the opportunity. I came in to do public relations for them and to help the founders facilitate getting the right stories, the right customer stories to their PR agency out in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. So that required me to get to know the product and the customer. Well, I went deep on understanding everything about how the product worked, all about the customers. And in doing so, I realized, wow, you guys need a lot of process. You don't have any process, procedure, systems, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a question, I'll kind of pause there for a second, that someone asked about, I believe it was something to the effect of, I've been passed up for a promotion, or I've asked for a promotion multiple times, but there's like, no. I've rarely asked for a promotion. I have found a place where I'm like, I'm just going to do this job because it needs to be done. It's very obvious it needs to be done. And then I get the promotion, or I get the job. Especially when you're working with founders, especially early on in the process, there are so many things to do. And typically, I mean, the founders are there to execute against the vision. It's like, can we just make it to Series B? Can we prove that we can hit this growth trajectory, et cetera? Yeah. And so I was like, all right, operationally speaking, I know I have a lot to offer this company. And so that's how I really started forging a path and carving out a space for me. So yeah, while I started with public relations, quickly that evolved to running all of member support. So creating a CRM, or customer relationship management system, with frequently asked questions, then working with our product team, all that customer information that was coming in, how do we create insights out of that to feed back to product such that we can iterate on our offering, our product offering. So that was early days, and just kind of how I stair-stepped my way in little by little. And earlier you said I've done everything. I have not written a line of code, and that's a good thing. I'm not non-technical, but I have done most everything else in the business.
Right. Honestly, I mean, that's one of those stories that like you hear about, right? But I feel like it's always like you hear about it like third or fourth hand of like, oh yeah, they started in the mailroom and worked their way up. And I don't know about you, but it was definitely like, I feel like all the times I've like heard it talked about, it's like my parents' generation. Like it's, it's people in like their 60s and 70s who are like, oh yeah, blah, 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 the gold watch after 25 years and the whole thing, right? And that's just it's not very common. So it's really kind of cool to hear about it. And it's, oh my God, it just sounds wonderful. I can't wait to keep diving in here. All right, the other question that I have to ask you at the start here, can you walk us through the story of your unsent resignation letter?
Yes. So
okay, elaborate a little for people that don't maybe know what
yes, what that, yeah. So during different points of like my tenure at uShip, I mean, there was always a point in time where I'm like, I need to leave, or I need to go do something else, or I need to push myself further, harder, or try something different. Have I done all I can do for this business? All those types of things rolling through my head. Um, so one tool I used for myself, and I mean, nobody told me this or anything. It just kind of just was logical for me at that point in time. But I started writing, I would write like a resignation letter. And I never did anything with it other than it was for me first, you know. So the reason why I did that, I would write out, and it was a very thorough resignation letter. Again, it was for my use only. Um, why do I think I want to make a move? Why am I at an impasse? um, what could I potentially do to get through this impasse? And what can I do with it that's within my control? Or what does the organization need to do? What would I want the organization to do
Yeah.
in order for me to kind of recommit to the organization?
I like
And so
that. It's
there
not just a
were,
venting letter, right? So you're thinking like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
so you put it all out. Yeah, you do the venting, but then
Yeah,
you've
but
got to
like,
like,
but you're also like, you're not just like everything makes me mad. You're like, no, here's what I would need to have for you to change. Like that.
yes, this has to change or I have to change. And
No,
so
I have a
then
moment
you,
like this in every chat, every single
yeah,
one. I'm telling you, it always happens. That's genius. I love
yes.
that.
Then you write out your non-negotiables
Okay.
because there are non-negotiables that I have in terms like ethics and like I'm a
Basic.
forever learner.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal for me. And I want to be forever challenged and learn and experience new things. And so typically when, or two of the times I wrote those resignation letters, I felt like I had done all I can do and I was feeling stagnant. I needed a different type of challenge.
Yeah.
And, you know, at one point in time, literally as I was doing this, one of the leaders in the company left and they were like, Heather, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it, you know. So
Yeah.
that was an unsent resignation letter, but it was just like this moment where I'm like, okay, I believe I want a broader role. But that's not
Mm-hmm.
possible here because the business doesn't need me in a broader role. But then a door
Mm-hmm.
opened. And so it's things like that, like where your non-negotiables are really important to set, but also revisit because you want
Because it
those.
might actually change. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think some of the things that would be non-negotiables, I mean, quite frankly, there'd be a lot more like boundaries now than I ever was able to set at any past job. So like I feel like
Mhm.
mine would be more about that. But yeah, like I could see how those things are going to change, right? Like what you actually need. Like it, are you in the
Exactly.
place where you need to be more trusted with what's going on and you need more free reign? Like,
Hmm.
and I like this as an exercise because like even if you then decide this is what I need to do, you at minimum have the kind of talking points to talk to your
Yeah.
manager or whoever. I love this.
Yes.
Okay. Keep saying
Exactly.
words. I'll be
Exactly.
quiet. Keep saying words.
No, no, you're good. But I used this as a tool. Again, it wasn't like I was, you know,
You're
yes,
not
there was
drafting.
definitely emotion, you know, to
Yeah.
it, but it's not like I'm just going to send this angry resignation letter and piecing out. No, I wanted to be very thoughtful about it. And every time it also left me with like, okay, I know I've got my thoughts on the paper now. I can go back and have the difficult conversation that I need to have. And so like there was one situation where you know, we talked about the complacency. I felt like, okay, my role is not broad enough. You know, I've kind of graduated from where I'm at, and
Mhm.
and the door open. But there was another time where, and this was probably when I was roughly probably senior manager, maybe director level
Mhm.
over all of customer operations, and the business we were trying to maintain certain like a certain part of the business, but we were also trying to accelerate and pivot the business elsewhere. And what happened at that point in time is we were in my opinion, we were neglecting, senior leadership was neglecting some major foundational issues within our tech stack that were going to limit us. And that's where I just feel like I was not being heard.
Mhm.
And if I was being heard, it was dismissed. And so that was one of the more, I would say, fiery, if you will, resignation letters that I wrote. But again, it allowed me to articulate every little thing that,
Yeah.
and I went to them with like more data and more structure around it.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm seeing. We've lost some really amazing employees recently because we're not addressing these things. And while, yes, we want to swing for the fences and go for this big idea, are we
Mhm.
willing to bet the company and the business on that? And I said,
Yeah.
I'm raising a flag here that we need to take a more balanced approach. Um, can we, for the next 6 months, a year, commit at least 25 to 30% of consistent engineering and development time to fixing some core foundational issues?
Mhm.
So that allowed for me to kind of synthesize, what am I seeing? Why am I seeing attrition? Where's this frustration? And then put it down on paper, have a constructive conversation. And they're like, oh, wow, these insights, came from you and, customer operations. And that's when you really kind of start pushing the barriers of what's possible.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, you're kind of illustrating a really great way to do like 3 or 4 different things that we talk about like a lot in these events. And one of them is like if you have problems, if you you need something, you're not getting it, either resources or support or whatever else, and you're going to talk
Mm-hmm.
to your manager about it, like have solutions, have like, hey, or even like a list of like, hey, this is what we've tried before, I don't know what to try next, but like, so have a
Right.
little bit of like, hey, here's what I would like to see done. Now that is absolutely no guarantee that you're going to get that, but
Nope.
if you're at least saying, here's something that I think should be changed, maybe there are either different ways to get to the result you want, like what you want is less stress, and so yeah, we can
Mm-hmm.
do that by reshifting, blah blah blah, maybe whatever, but you've at least given them a jumping off point. So at minimum, it's not like they can say, well, we can't do anything because in the background, actually, they don't want to, put in the brain power, or they're just not
Right.
sure, or whatever. But I really like this as not just as a tool for that, but also like to kind of distill what really is happening, because maybe not necessarily, maybe not that the resignation letter needs to be sent, but maybe you utilize that resignation letter or segments of it to have a conversation with your
Yeah,
manager to see if maybe there's something coming down the pike. It might be that like they
exactly.
know, no, there's nothing for you now, we
Yep.
can't give you more leadership now, but we could give you more leadership in about 8 months when this person is
Mm-hmm.
going to leave the company, or
Mm-hmm.
this person's going on maternity leave or whatever. So yeah,
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
great.
if you do end up leaving because you're just like, okay, this is just not changing the way I need it to change. I'm not
Mhm.
able to evolve to meet the needs meet the needs of the business. There's just
Yeah.
no alignment. Then your boss, your manager shouldn't be blindsided if you put in your notice, because
Hmm.
you've already had the conversation about what is unsettling and where you're at and what you're wanting. And if the business isn't able to give it, they're not able to give it. And it just is. And so I also just became very at peace with it.
Yeah.
And along the way, it's just like sometimes timing, luck is
Yeah.
is is
Yeah.
more than half the battle sometimes. I
Oh
mean,
my
you can
God.
be doing everything perfectly
Like
and timing
timing.
just might not be right.
Yes. And that's one of those things, like timing controls so much of it that you don't. And so it's very, I don't know. I mean, honestly, at minimum, if you go through the exercise and you write the resignation letter, at minimum, it'll make your exit interview a lot easier, because you don't have to try
Absolutely.
and figure out a way to tell them that, Sherry from accounting is a nightmare, and also you're not paying people enough, or whatever it
Whatever
is,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I like this. Okay. So obviously a big theme of your career has been that that continuous learning and growth, but
Yeah.
also the leadership that you bring to whatever role that you are in.
Mhm.
Let's go really nuts and bolts. What do you think is the key quality, or if there were more than one, key quality of leadership?
Um, I I am very much a believer in leading with authenticity.
Mhm.
Um, what you see is what you get. And I'm perfectly imperfect. And I
Heck
expect
yeah.
everyone else to be the same. I mean, and so that's a really, really big deal to me. I practice what I preach there, and that's what I expect of my other leaders. But in turn, what that has done for my organization as a whole, our company as a whole, but also even just like in a team level, when I had, 4 employees, 5 employees, whatever, and growing to where we are today, it has fostered such a trusting environment where it's safe to debate, it's safe to challenge, with respect. And we all know we're doing it for the betterment of the business, like the mission. And so it's less about, definitely less about me or I mean, it's like, okay, this is business focused, and we leave it there. So authenticity is just super important. Being true to yourself. I've worked with people that are maybe less than authentic, and maybe that's because that they're uncomfortable with themselves or a piece of themselves. And even when we bring in people to the organization, sometimes, especially if they're coming from a larger organization, there's this thought of, oh, I have to be this certain way. No. You're going to be, we see through that. Just be you. We're here for the business. I'm not wanting you to act differently, or it's not a performance. Just be you. That's a really big deal.
Could you potentially give us an example of like somebody who's not leading with authenticity? I feel like it's one of those things that, like, once you've done it, you kind of know how it feels, but it's really hard to describe otherwise. So could you give us an example?
Sure. So I had an employee once that came to me and just like, well, how do you need me to be for this meeting? How do you need me to be? And I was just like, what do you mean be? And I'm like, do you need me to, it felt like I was a director and this was an actor, like a paid actor. And that's when I was just like, wait a second. No, we hired a human because you feel and we need you to make those human connections. So I think it's a lot about just pausing, taking a moment to read the room, read the other person you're sitting across from, and making those connections. If you don't set the stage to build a foundation of trust, I guess that's another piece of key leadership, building that foundation of trust, allowing for that trust to be built and giving space for that, then you're failing before you even started. Because then people don't know how to respond to you. There's always just like this block between you and that other individual, because you can't feel. Clearly, I'm a feeler in terms of emotion and stuff.
Oh yeah, same. Oh, okay, I like that. Thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about the role of experience in reaching the top of your profession. I feel like there are a lot of people that feel like you either need to get there fast, because time's a wasting, or there are sometimes people who kind of feel like they're not at the top yet because they don't know everything. But it's like, bro, is that really? I don't think that's an accurate assessment. So talk us through this. What do you see as the role of experience?
So let me just give this latest example. Interim CEO. What happened there? Our board said, hey, internally speaking, within all of uShip, you are the only candidate, that we're looking at. And yes, you've shown interest that you want this job, but they still ran a full search through a search firm, in which I went through the process just like everyone else, and obviously ended up getting the job. But when talking to my board about the hesitancy, like, okay, there's one thing of like, let's just make sure we're getting the right candidate for this business. But what about me? What am I specifically lacking? Experience. You've never held a CEO title. You've never held a CEO job. Well, I had never held anything when I started with this company. Other than an internship where I did some things. So when I was mulling this question over, which I do really appreciate and love this question, everyone is always going to gravitate toward, oh my gosh, they've done it before, experience. What I challenge is dig a little deeper. They've had the experience. What did they take from that experience? Were they successful? Did they fail? Why did they fail? What happened?
What did they learn from that failure?
What did they learn? Exactly. You can experience anything from like just doing. I mean, I've learned through my experience, and I've also learned that if you don't have direct experience, find someone who does and surround yourself with those individuals during those certain seasons of whatever you're going through. Um, as an example, again, from interim, well, when I was entertaining, CEO and everything, when I was going from COO to CEO, I phoned my, trusted mentors from way back. And I was like, hey, you were a CFO in this huge company and you've gone on to do that multiple times. Grill me. Can I do this? And they're like,
Yeah.
of course you can do this. You all, and so it's surrounding yourself with those people to a gut check you, and b make sure that you understand your blind spots so that you can dig in and feel more confidence in those blind spots, or build confidence, build the expertise or skill set or what have you.
Yeah.
Experience did not stand in the way of me getting this job, or lack thereof. And you just do it. You just do the work. I mean, just go
Yeah.
right through.
Well, and I like how you specify, like, okay, no, I've never done this job before. It reminds me of what we talk about when we talk to client companies about their job descriptions, right? We talk about like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, do you actually need a college degree from this person to get this role?
Yeah.
Or do you just see college degree as shorthand? And if you see it as shorthand, what is it shorthand for? Because you might be able to find somebody that has the skills necessary to do blah blah blah, but doesn't have that specific degree. Or we only like people that come out of the financial industry because they're better because their blood runs green or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's things where it's like, okay, let's just reassess a little bit. Like, what do we actually need this person to do?
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to like judge their past experience? How close is it? Because that's the thing, is like, if you're going on related experience but not direct, you're kind of asking the recruiter to do a little bit more like kind of mental gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we are all people. We want to do less work. Okay. It's, human condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I very much, I'm loving all of these answers. I mean, it's not like surprising, but yeah, like this is fabulous. Okay. All right, let's go through here. We've got some other questions that people had asked. I know we have about 20 minutes left in today's event. We'll save the last 5 minutes to talk to you a little bit more about uShip, and their company culture. But if you have questions and you have not gotten a chance to ask them yet, send them in the channel. Send them in that chat feature. I would be happy to ask them. If you have a question that you want asked, but you want to be kept anonymous, no worries. Just DM me. You can send it to Meg Alexander in the drop-down menu instead of sending it to everyone. So if you got questions, ask early, ask often. No. All right. We've talked a little bit about your journey up the career ladder to become CEO. Were there any obstacle, or was there an obstacle that was kind of the big one, or have you maybe, what was this like? That was that journey kind of fraught a bit?
I was thinking about this question. There's not a single like major obstacle,
Yeah.
I would say. It's just been a lot of different things. And there's just been so many different types of challenges that have come up that I've, persevered through. Um, so yeah, I don't really have a great, like, this was the thing that I overcame. I mean,
Yeah.
my head of HR is on the phone. Looking back to what we went through with just COVID, I'm like, okay, this is happening. We're shutting down the office. Okay, this is happening. There's no playbook for that. Those are all huge obstacles, and
Yeah.
that you just work through.
Well, and it was also a really great illustrator of the fact that, like, if anybody tells you that they know what they're doing, they're lying to you. Okay. Literally,
Yeah,
none of us have ever done today before, ever, 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 ever. So we're all making it up as we go.
yeah.
That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Like,
Aptitude and attitude, I think, outweigh experience.
yes, absolutely. Okay, this is kind of a big question, but what is your motivation? What drives you? What's your, your reason for what you do?
So I multifaceted answer here. Um, I am driven by helping other people be successful. So one of the
Yeah.
premises of our business model is to allow for owner operators, so think small to medium businesses that move large goods. So they could be car haulers, they could be furniture movers, they could be heavy equipment movers, et cetera, et cetera. Our business creates a way for all of these businesses to aggregate freight, to aggregate loads, and that pays for their livelihood. That's what drives them. So what makes me really excited is to continue that mission and to make our supply chain much more efficient, with being able to allow for this very unique, highly disparate capacity to be utilized appropriately within the US market and beyond. So that drives me in terms of a business function. But what drives me organizationally, I love developing people, and I love allowing people to give them a platform to be successful. And in their career, whatever that is. And so I work hard to ensure that our missions are aligned. And so it's like right people, right attitude in the room to deliver against our mission. That's what drives me.
I like it. Okay. All right. This was a question. It's beautifully worded. So if somebody in the audience asked this, thank you for sending it in. At what point in your career did the maturity of knowing your inner value and self-worth become greater than the voice of others' outward opinion of you? This one's big. Okay.
I
For
love
me,
this question.
this didn't happen until 33, maybe. It's like 4 years ago.
Oh.
All right. How about you?
Yeah, great question. And, some days there are days where I kind of slip back, not going to lie. And I think that's completely normal. You're just like, what am I even doing? Like, I mean, and I have 2 kids. I am married, and then I run a company. And so some days I'm just like, am I equipped to be a mother? I'm like, well, you got 2 of them. So no, you're always going to feel that. But for me,
I'm sorry. Can we talk about the irony of the situation where you're like, can I even handle this? And you are literally the person who just gave us the advice of, no, I have never been a CEO before, but here's my related experience.
Exactly.
Just saying, holding up the mirror.
That's what's it's so funny. It's like every time that pops in my head, I'm just like, you idiot. No, you've got this. But negative self-talk has always been an issue for me. And it started as a child. And I have to be super honest with this group. I was definitely the person that I will be a number 2. I'll be in the background. I'll make sure everything is great and perfect, but I want somebody in front of me that is doing the talking, because I'm not worthy of that. I just don't think that's not me. That's too in the spotlight. And that's something that I have challenged myself with greatly since becoming a C-level and putting myself out there. So it's a process. And every day I have to remind myself, no, you've got it. It's just like shaking those negative comments in the back of your head. I have all of the tools in my tool belt. I am very equipped, and as is everyone on this call. So it's just constantly got to go over it. And yes, I just telling myself, like, am I equipped to be a mother? I'm like, well, you have to, so you better be.
There's really no other option.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about where you live, but in Ohio, you only have like 8 days to leave it at a police station or a firehouse. So I mean, like,
well,
you kind of have to.
Yeah,
you kind of gotta. You're like, oh well, I guess I gotta take care. So yeah, no, I mean, I think I love all of this. I love all of the directions this conversation is going. But yeah, I mean, it really does. It's a complete difference. And I didn't realize when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, that that I really was not. I had no faith in myself, and it was all based on others' perceptions of me. Like, and if what you're trying to do is define yourself based on what other people think about you, other people's like thoughts, if they're like, oh, you should do blah blah blah, it's because they're thinking about what they would do if they were in your place with everything that you have, right?
Yeah.
But they're still not you. That's the giant difference. So truly, like getting that ability, I remember having like one of my first jobs, I was a paralegal and I went to a meeting. I had done all the prep work for it. I was like the person that had put together all of the stuff that was going to be in this thing. And I get there and we're all talking, and the supervisor, my supervising attorney was there, and all these other people. And I will never forget leaving that meeting. And she told me that I needed to pipe down, that like it wasn't, and I was the one that knew the answers to the questions that they were asking. And that chased me for years, probably better of a decade. So like I get it. Like those comments go in and the barbs stick, and even though you know that they're not true, it's just so hard, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
feel real. It feels like, no, you've fooled everyone, which honestly is an accomplishment. Like that's the thing, that's the new method that I get behind. If I can't shake the I'm not actually as good as these people think that I am doing my utmost to switch it to I've managed to convince everyone. Dang, I must be really good at
Yeah.
faking it because they don't know the difference. It's all right. Not on me then. That's cool. I like it.
Yep.
Okay. Another question, a little along the same lines. If you were able to go back in time and do something differently, is there something that you would change or any advice that you would give to your younger self?
Um, a lot more grace, just giving myself grace. I am my toughest critic. Um, there was a phase where I'm like, God, you were really mean to yourself. Like you were so nice to everyone else. Why
Oh,
am I so
talk to
mean to
myself.
me?
I would
Right?
never allow people to talk to my friends the way I talk to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
And I'm
you
like,
were talking about your
why?
friend, and I was like, inner me, the rage was rising. I was like, no, no, no. But like, yeah, I would never talk to my friends like I talk to myself.
Yeah. It's just, so that's something that I would definitely, number one thing, just being nicer to myself, and giving myself grace, because I was striving for this definition of perfection that I really don't know where it came from or why, but that was just built in me. And it
Yeah.
took me a longer than I ever wanted to really overcome that and be truly
Well,
accepting.
it's always like completely unachievable too. It's like that's just not possible. You're
Yeah.
saying I
Yeah.
need to learn to ride a unicorn by next year. And it's like that
Yeah.
we're gonna have problems. It's a non-starter.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
All right. I want to talk about, we talked a little bit about the kind of the key quality of leadership. Do you think that there is a skill that you've honed throughout the years that has been consistently useful in the roles that you've had or aspire to have?
Um, I know this is a really general answer, but communication is just so,
Mhm.
so, so critical.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's all the standard things that we hear all the time. Don't assume, don't this, don't that, do this, do that, like document. But truly making sure that that we're aligned. You know, people can have happy ears; they can hear what they want to hear. And so I find myself like one of the things that my strengths is to take notes, write things down, bring them back up. Don't let them die on a vine, whether it's an idea or a resolution to a problem. Um, that's so, if you don't clearly communicate and help drive that accountability based upon whatever was talked about or decided upon,
Mhm.
then you're just going to continue to probably detract. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes of questions, and then we'll talk a little bit more about uShip. Heather, while I do something for the audience, I'm gonna encourage you. Are there any questions in here, like areas that you wanted us to touch on that we haven't touched on yet?
Let's
I know there's a
see.
lot. There's honestly a
There
lot.
was, I'm just going through real quick. I think you hit,
We had a ton of the first
yeah,
stuff.
you hit on yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Mhm.
Oh, sorry, there was one question on any advice for early career managers who have been taught that in recent times, company loyalty is in the past. I kind of touched on this earlier. For me, being with this one company for this long, um, it's been about more opportunity for myself And yes, I love the company. I love the mission. I'm so happy to be at the helm and leading this company. Um, but you're, I mean, it is not expected for someone for sure. I mean, and then statistically speaking, nobody's going to be with a company for very few people are going to be with the company 20 plus years. Got it.
Mm,
Check. I certainly don't look at, when I look at resumes, I'm not looking for people that look like me in terms of a resume. I'm truly just thinking about their experiences, their skills, their passion, their drive. But yeah, I thought that was a good one that I would touch
that
on there.
is, yeah, that is a really, really good one. Let's see. We did have one question that came during today's event. Da, 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 da. Oh, so you are, where did I go? Da, 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 da. Oh, time management techniques. This was a question that we gets asked a lot, especially when we're talking like what managers want you to know. So in that, is time management an issue that you've had before, or is there you had direct reports that had this as an issue? And if so, do you have any like advice for people that might struggle with this?
Yeah. I guess at the some of my like early day too, like before I was even, or maybe when I was like a mid-level leader, I
Mhm.
found myself having more difficulties with time management because I had leadership responsibility, but I was still taking on all of the individual contributor responsibility as well. And so that just meant I worked a hell of a lot more hours. And this was pre having kids. So sure, I could do that. No big deal.
Yeah,
I had to get really, really good at delegating. And that was a challenge at some point in time in my career. But I had to become very goal oriented. All that to say is like know your top goals
mhm.
and stick to that. That is your commitment. You know what you're driving for, whether that's a revenue number or a quality control number or whatever. You know what you're driving for, and you just got to ensure that you're planning your day, your weeks, your months to ensure that you've got the time set aside to hit that.
I like that. Okay. All right, last question, and this one's awesome. I wish we'd been able to get to this one sooner, honestly, but we had some really great stuff to ask today. So thank you all for the amazing questions you submitted. All right, this person said, I want to know how to start a conversation about boundaries with your supervisor, especially how to initiate this. All right, so as someone who has been on both sides of these
Mhm.
conversations, I'm sure, what do you recommend? What is there a kind of a good rule of thumb or some guidelines that people should know if they're trying to start this conversation, especially if they've not yet had a conversation like this with their superior?
Yeah. Um, my recommendation is to ask them what they do with their boundaries. And if they, how have you set boundaries? And I don't know if the reason for this question is because this maybe your leader or your boss is not respecting boundaries. Maybe boundaries haven't been properly set, or maybe it's like this unspoken boundary that we think
Mm,
everybody understands, but we really don't.
I love those.
So
Aren't those
my
great?
yeah, they're great. Everyone's like, well, can
It's
we
a
just say what it
mystery.
is? It's a
Yeah,
mystery. I think there might be a boundary here, but I'm sensing it. I'm trying to, can we just say it?
yeah,
No, my recommendation would be to just, hey, have a conversation with them. Like,
yeah,
can we talk to me about how you set boundaries and maybe be a little bit more descriptive? Is it boundaries between work life? Is it boundaries with like decision making matrix within your
yeah.
organization? Things like that. But I would put the question on them. And then if they don't reciprocate, then you jump in and say, well, here are mine. And, this has really been nagging at me that I feel like there's a boundary here, or I want there to be a boundary here, but there's not today. So can we talk about it? Put it
Yeah.
on the table.
Yeah, I like that. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that we gave you a little bit of time to kind of sit back and talk a little bit more about uShip. Um, as we've gone and talked through today, you've gotten to share a little bit with us. Is there anything else that you want to express about the company culture that we haven't really been able to touch on yet?
Yeah, one of the so I did talk about the people, and we definitely love to invest in our people through continued trainings. We do love to work with PowerToFly, and we think you guys are such a great resource for candidates and also our employees as
Mhm.
well, with all the different courses and stuff that you guys have. But all that to say, like our core values are one of our, like, it's so foundational to how we work.
Mhm.
And it's grit, it's respect, leading with integrity, acting with integrity, and testing, failing fast. Those are the things that make our company, I think, unique. And I know any other company can say that too. And they do, and they should. But there are certainly companies, and you feel it when you walk into their office virtually or physically, where they have core values on the wall, but you don't feel it. They don't mean it. And I
Mhm.
think that that's one of the things that once you're inside our four walls, our proverbial four walls, that's what I continue to hear from our employees. And that makes me very happy, and makes me feel good about all of the effort and the time we spend on praising people for utilizing core values, and everything, and all of our community committees and everything like that too, that we put time in. We ensure that there's alignment there from a core value perspective.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent to hear. All right, we are just about at the end of time today, but I just wanted to highlight for y'all again, in case you maybe missed the intro. Heather is here on behalf of uShip. She's this company's CEO. We've gotten to explore her career journey and learn a little bit more about her leadership beliefs and style. If anything that we've said today really has sparked your interest about uShip, please, please, please check out their company page. Rhea is going to share that in the chat thread as we go here. So please feel free to check out their company page. Don't forget to smash that follow button. It's a really, really great tool. If you've got any questions about what it does for you, you can either rewatch the beginning of this, or you can always email our help desk. It's hi@powertofly.com. Now, if you're interested in uShip, please make sure you check them out. Smash that follow button. What else? There was something else I was going to say. Oh, check out their company page and check it out for videos and stuff. They have a bunch of things posted, Ask the Recruiter videos, all kinds of things. So really make sure that you check that out, utilize those resources, because we want to make sure that y'all succeed. We want to find you your next great fit. Heather, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming and joining us today, taking time out of your schedule for us. It's obvious the prep work that went into this beforehand. So thank you so, so much for joining us. This was really wonderful.
Of course, I've really enjoyed the time and happy to support PowerToFly. And for everyone listening, like they said, please check out those open jobs that we currently have posted and see if there's anything that might align with you all. And I just saw here, it would be great if uShip expanded to Chicago. We actually have an employer too that live in Chicago. We do offer remote work for many of our positions. So check
Ooh,
us out more.
heck yeah. Thanks, Heather. All
Thank
right,
you.
y'all. To our audience members, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Whether this was your first Power to Fly event or your 50th, we are always incredibly grateful that you took time out of your day to spend with us and great companies like uShip. I hope that this has been as enjoyable for you as it has been for me. I hope that y'all have a safe, happy, healthy rest of your work, rest of your day, week, and weekend. And that, again, whether this was your first or your 50th, I hope that we'll see you again on another event soon. Have a great day, y'all, and I cannot wait to see you again later. Bye.